Oh, sorry. Okay.
Hi, I'm Vera, and this is Vera.
And Adrian, hi. Oh, I need to change my name.
And we are Vera and Adrian working from home. Right, okay, so for those of you who are new to us, we just started the show with like a super exciting holding page and intro music. The music was composed and performed by Martin Zoltz Ostwick.
Mm-hmm. And yeah.
Okay,
And the visuals are by Lucy Pawlak.
Lucy Pawlak, who is currently in Mexico City International. Right, so forgive me, I'm going to be slightly, what's the word? Steamrolly today.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you, okay, so newcomers, we are Vera and Adrian. We sometimes, usually live gig live, and now we are stuck in our homes. We thought we would still check in with each other and have nice chats.
Yeah.
And bring you our thoughts on various things. So this week we are going to be talking about, well, it's music week. Every week we'll do a different thing. So the first week of the month will be books, and then films and TV, and then music, and then food. And sometimes we will have special secret surprise guests. This week we will be talking about
Articles of Interest, which is a podcast by Vera Chok.
So don't worry if you can't quite catch everything that we say. Adrian will be writing down web links, and that will be posted after the show is aired. So you can follow up and find these things that we're talking about. Right. This show is 45 minutes long. We're going to do a little hello check-in. How are we? And then we'll talk about the thing, which is the podcast, until 8 o'clock. And then 8 o'clock, all the questions, you can write us little messages or send us questions in your chat box. That sounds rude, chat box. Which should be down the side of your YouTube screen. I think you need to be logged into YouTube to write, but we will respond to your questions. So ask us anything, ask us about the podcast, ask us about the weather, whatever you like, really. And
you can, I'm just going to say you can chat to us throughout the show, and we will generally respond after 8 o'clock, but you can chat at any time. Caroline's already started.
Yeah, correct.
Hi, Caroline.
And then we will finish pretty soon after 8:10. So if you're having your dinner, this is like radio, so you don't even need to look at the screen.
Yes.
Over to you, Adrian.
Excellent opening, Vera. Thank you very much. How are you doing today?
I am super tired.
Nap. Good. Okay. That's nice.
But I'm very excited to know that the cornflowers that you are growing are about to bloom. And
They're really, yeah. Flowers are straining at their, whatever that bit of the flower is called, around the outside. To come out. You can just see the blue of the petals inside. It's amazing.
Oh, speaking of cornflowers, we need to talk about content warnings.
Yeah, I don't know if there are any particular content warnings today. Maybe, we might swear, but it's, did we swear last week? I don't think we did.
I don't think we did. Are you feeling sweary? I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth this week, to be honest.
But in terms of the content that we're going to be talking about, of the podcast, I think those episodes, some of those episodes come with content warnings, but I'm not going to talk about the kind of stuff that might be that might be covered by those warnings, if that makes sense.
Yes, and maybe someone might be upset by, will there be any talk of capitalism?
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, okay, so watch out for that.
Yeah. I wanted to say, I think the cornflowers are the first things that I've ever successfully grown from seed that have survived to almost, fruition, or, obviously not fruition, flowerhood, yeah. That's
good.
Can I give you a conversational prompt?
Yes.
Conversational prompt number 7. Are you feeling particularly annoyed about anything today?
No, I was yesterday, but I'm not allowed to talk about it publicly.
Jolly good. Wow.
How about you?
No, I'm annoyed about how tired I am today. That's what I'm annoyed about today.
Do you have enough energy to be annoyed?
Yes, I mean that's the last thing to go, I think, is annoyance.
Right.
Like all of the layers are stripped away, all of the politeness and the patience and the forbearance are stripped away, and then what's left is annoyance.
I love how your vocabulary is so different to mine. I've never used the word forbearance.
Ah, well, perhaps you haven't exercised forbearance.
I'm not quite sure what forbearance is. No, seriously, what is it?
Yeah, I don't know if I would be able to give you a definition. I feel like it's putting up with something.
Forbearance. For is like before.
Yes.
Bearance is like bear. But how is it different to patience?
Patience is just about waiting, isn't it? Forbearance, I think, is about actually putting up with something.
Oh.
I think. Like maybe, bear as in bear a load. Maybe it's that.
Then maybe it's aft bear or bear.
What?
Because it's, if you're already experiencing it, it wouldn't be for.
No, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the for is doing there.
Right. It's a white person word, Kevin Shen posits.
Possible. It's baby
an
bear, mama bear,
word.
daddy bear, and like a friend of the family bear is what it is.
Yes. Oh, right. I don't seem tired, but I'm probably speaking in this slightly forceful nasal voice because I'm trying to keep the energy levels going.
Okay.
But so forgive me, I may not have the voice for radio today.
I don't, I'm not aware of you not having a voice for radio today, Vera. Would you like another quick conversational prompt?
Sure, go on.
Number 8.
Yes.
Are you feeling particularly excited about anything today?
No.
No?
No. I don't know.
You're excited about my cornflowers?
Yes, but we've already talked about them. I don't want to talk about them again. I'm excited about... Maybe I'm too tired to be excited.
Oh.
I mean, having said this though, and I don't want to go on and on about being tired because I know that I'm never going to be as tired as parents.
Yes, indeed.
Parents are just tired, I think, by definition. And also at this point in time, maybe health workers. So, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. Right, so I think we should plunge into the topic 1 minute early just to roll.
Let's go for it.
Tell me about, why are you bringing a podcast to Music Week?
Well, okay, yes, I know. I thought music could be extended to audio in general, because we don't have a week for audio, do we? We have a week for visual media.
Yes.
Well, films and TV. And I listen to podcasts through the same device that I would listen to music through. So it's all just sound coming out of my iPhone, basically.
And into your brain.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why. And I've been listening to this series and I just really love it. So I wanted to have an opportunity to share that love.
Okay, so tell us how you came to know about this series.
This, when did I first listen to? So Articles of Interest, which is the podcast series we're talking about, is a spin-off series from 99% Invisible. Now, okay, fun fact. Martin Zoltz-Ostwick, who wrote the music for our intro, is married to Helen Zaltzman, who makes a podcast, a very, very good podcast called The Illusionist, with an A, The Illusionist, for, what's the company called? Radiotopia.
Yes.
And Radiotopia is a collective, but I think was put together, it was the brainchild of Roman Mars, who has a show called 99% Invisible, and it's 99% invisible that makes articles of interest. So yeah, there's like a very, very slight, like only about 3 degrees of separation between our intro music and what I'm talking about today.
I'm not quite sure that was a fun fact.
It was pretty fun.
All right.
I enjoyed it.
Great.
I must have discovered it through 99% Invisible. I don't listen to 99% Invisible every week, but that's a podcast that deals with design and the built environment. And they have some amazing episodes.
I see. So 99% of the effort of designing and making the thing is invisible.
Exactly.
Right.
And in fact, there's a really nice episode that Helen Zaltzman made on her podcast, The Illusionist, about podcast names. And Roman Mars talks about 99% Invisible on that. It's a great, it's a very good name. I think it causes problems when you try to play it on certain cars. They did an episode with another podcast about because of the percentage sign in their name, it interferes with systems in some cars. I don't know.
Wow.
But so they do.
Not very future-proof, these cars.
No, not very future-proof. Well, they weren't expecting anybody to come up with a podcast with a percentage sign in. Clearly, they thought that was, I don't know, safe for something to do with. Well, I'm not even going to get into what it is to do with. I don't know. So 99% Invisible is a super interesting podcast and quite wide-ranging. I think Roman Mars's kind of starting point was architecture, but it goes into all kinds of things, and there are some really, really wonderful episodes. And Avery Trufelman has been working as a producer
Avery Trufelman. Sorry. Let's just enjoy that name. Avery.
Yes. Avery Trufelman.
So Avery is a name that I thought I was going to say that I learned about the name Avery through Anne of Green Gables, but that's Avril. So Avril's Atonement is something mentioned in Anne of Green Gables, which is a book that's coming up over and over again during this time.
Yes, you keep bringing it up.
Oh, right, okay then.
I haven't read Anne of Green Gables.
What?
I watched a little bit of it on TV when I was younger, when I was a child, I think. And that came up again on Helen Zaltzman's podcast.
Yes. Okay, right. We mention Helen every week.
Helen's great.
Helen is great, but perhaps we should announce to the world that we are in no way taking any money from Helen.
No. So Avery Trufelman, she's been working for 99% Invisible for a while, and she then made, I think last year, she made 6 episodes, which was the first mini season of Articles of Interest. And then just last week, they released the last episode of the 2nd season of Articles of Interest. And I think that's the last thing that she's going to make with 99% Invisible. That was kind of her swan song. And so altogether there are 12 episodes, and it's a really beautiful journey. She kind of weaves this wonderful, like you go from one thing to the next very organically somehow. It feels like, no?
You've lost me. What are we talking about?
We're talking about the episodes of Articles of Interest.
Yes, you haven't told us what it's about though.
Clothes mostly.
Okay, so it's about clothes, as in articles of clothing?
Yes, so that's where the articles comes from.
Okay.
I think I've written down all of the things. The first season is all about clothes. The second season is more about luxury. So it's about things, so either clothes or things that are clothes adjacent. So they also talk about
clothes adjacent.
The first episode, in fact, of the second season is really fascinating. It's about these little mannequins that were made in 1944 or 45, I guess 45, in Paris to try and promote the French fashion industry. And
to save the French fashion industry.
Yes, indeed, to save the French fashion industry. And there just weren't enough raw materials to make full-sized clothes. for all these models, but they could make mannequin-sized outfits, and they did that, and the exhibition went around the world and ended up in Washington State in America. And so Avery Trufelman talks with the woman who kind of came across it at the museum in Washington, and then that's a fascinating episode that just is sparked by these weird mannequin dolls that are found in the basement of a museum, and then becomes about fashion and glamour and what it is that, whether we really want what we want. It's amazing.
So unlike other episodes or our relationship to date, I did actually look up this podcast, so I listened to that episode, yes, and I enjoyed it. And just to like, these dolls were quite small. They're not like small mannequins or anything. They're like small things.
They're pretty small. I think Avery describes them as twice the length of your forearm, that kind of height.
Okay, not that small then. Not
tiny, but
okay.
Yeah, certainly miniature,
but like they had working zips and working buttons, and it wasn't, nothing was velcroed. It was all sort of hand stitched and made by the top couture, is that how you pronounce it?
Couturier, yes.
Couturiers in Paris, just to remind the world that they were stylish. And what was really interesting to me was that there's value attached to that idea, the concept that goods coming out of a location are stylish. Right. You should pay a premium for something that comes from Paris.
Yes.
Yes, I told some friends of mine way back when, they're from France, Paris, and they'd moved to Kuala Lumpur, and I was like, you need to put on your business card, from Paris.
And people would get excited about that.
Yeah, because France,
Paris has a mystique, for sure.
Yes. And you can almost smell it. You can think like, oh, it's really fragrant. It's like, you think perfumes, you think scarves, all that stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
So have you listened to the entire season 2?
Yes. So I've now listened to all of it. I'd listened to most of season 2, and I hadn't listened to much of season 1, but I went back and listened to all of it.
And what journey are you talking about across the season?
So in season 2, the journey, it starts with these mannequins, and goes from the mannequins to what's the next? Oh, knockoffs. So the next episode is about brands and the value that people attach to brands, and then the things that have happened with brands. So because people started to use the logos in their own designs, so particularly in hip-hop fashion, the brands then reappropriated that. That's a fascinating story as well, really interesting. And the rise of then the small things that the brands sell in order to make money, like handbags and glasses and things like that. Anything with a logo on then suddenly becomes really valuable, I think in the 80s and 90s. So that's where that goes.
There's a handbag brand that is expensive because it doesn't have any branding.
Really?
Wow. I
And
can't remember what it is, but you know that it's expensive and of that designer because one doesn't have any branding, and also it's like a particular kind of weave of leather.
Wow.
Also, I started reading this book about, it's not that new. No, it's not the Birkin bag, Kevin. It's classier than that. There's a book called The Girl at the Baggage Claim by an Asian American writer.
Oh, yes, that rings a bell. Yes.
Yeah, she talks about how, and I haven't finished reading the book, but one of the differences between East and West, however you wanted to define that, is that China sort of, for example, had imitation Apple stores.
Right.
That were exactly the same, but instead of, the Apple logo, it would say Apple Store.
Wow.
But there's like a pride in being able to to copy and reproduce and have like
Yes.
the fakes. And also the pride in like the fakes are better quality than the original, but at
Right.
a lower price.
That's
And
interesting.
and there's no shame whatsoever attached to not being the authentic article.
Right.
Yeah, and so that sort of difference in attitude towards invention, maybe, of like,
Mhm.
let's not invent stuff, let's just make existing things better.
Right. Yeah, yeah. It's something to do with the value of craft as much as anything, isn't it? I mean, I feel like we put a lot of, in the West, we put a lot of emphasis now on the artist as genius, let's say. And so
Yeah.
the idea of this kind of unique brilliance of somebody or other, and it's different from, yeah, the idea of making, being able to make something that's maybe not unique, but is just very well made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And then, do you remember, it's interesting, isn't it? Like Burberry was really classy and then it became less classy. And then now I'm not quite sure what's happening to it. But I remember Calvin Klein used to be a luxury good, but now you can buy everyone's wearing Calvin Klein pants, or like you can buy Calvin Klein perfumes at Boots, and you're like, no.
I mean, you make more money if you can sell things to everybody, don't you? Then if you're just a luxury brand, you'll make less money at the end. But there was a story around Ralph Lauren, was it? Where that Ralph Lauren was worn by kind of preppy Americans and then appropriated by maybe hip hop culture. And at that point, the preppy Americans no longer wanted to wear it. And then the people who'd appropriated it or started to wear it no longer wanted to wear it. And then nobody wanted to wear it. And they had a bit of a crisis, I think, 10, 15 years ago, because that has a lot to do with snobbery and racism, essentially, which is also quite interesting. But who is allowed to wear your clothes is I mean, Avery Trufelman doesn't get into that, but I know that that's a big issue with some brands, isn't it? Like they will write to people and say, please stop wearing our clothes.
Oh, what?
I've heard that, yeah. If the
can't
wrong people are wearing their clothes, if the wrong celebrities are wearing their clothes, it can tarnish the brand.
Yeah, but what do these wrong people get in return? A big check, I hope. You know, like if I'm gonna stop wearing things that I like wearing, you're gonna have to take me off.
I don't know, or they're just not allowed to buy like original one-off.
Yeah, you get your people to go do your shopping for you, surely.
Yeah, I guess.
But yeah, you know, like when the Chinese start wearing I don't know, Burberry or whatever, everyone's like, or like people from Essex, and it's like all these sort of stereotypes, and you know, they're not allowed to appropriate this uniform.
Well, I suppose partly because fashion, or like high fashion, luxury, is partly about fantasy, isn't it? And so it's about aspiring to be a particular person. And so, you know, you might aspire to be Jackie O because she has a certain cachet, but until quite recently, somebody living in Essex wouldn't have any cachet. And now I guess, and that's changing, because then there are a whole load of people who watch The Only Way is Essex, and those people do have cachet, and
Love
that
Island
turns into money.
Yeah.
So that, I don't know, it is interesting. Kevin's brought up Tommy Hilfiger. I might have been thinking of Tommy Hilfiger and not Ralph Lauren. I don't know. I'm not very good on brands and branding. But to go back to this journey, so at the end of each episode, Avery Trufelman will then take us on to where the next episode is going to start. So at the end of the episode about the mannequins, she starts talking about brands. And then at the end of the episode about brands, she starts talking about perfume, because perfume is one of the things that is now sold to make money for brands. And so on and so forth. So each time she just takes you, she says, we're going this way now. And then you can listen to the next episode. And I love that. I think she does that really nicely, because it's like she gives us a trailer for the next episode, but she doesn't use any of the material from the next episode to make that trailer. It's an extension of the episode we've just listened to. But it makes me feel as though we're really traveling in one direction. It's not like I want to talk about suits and now I want to talk about wedding dresses. It's really like I'm going to take you from suits via diamonds to wedding dresses along this route that I have traced out for us. that makes sense.
And do you think, like, what's her agenda, or like, what's the thrust of it?
Well, so the last episode of the first season is about punk style, and there she's talking about how, you know, maybe it's easy to think that how you dress or how style is a frivolous thing to be concerned with, and she talks about how, you know, to not be concerned with your personal style is also a kind of privilege, because your clothes always speak, right? And so I think that's where I feel like that's the thing that kind of guides the whole series, is she is really interested in style and what the things that we make say about us and the history of those things. So in the first season, I think for me is more interesting. I'm not so interested in luxury, although the episodes are great. The first season takes in much more everyday stuff like denim and plaid and Hawaiian shirts and pockets. And that kind of stuff I find fascinating.
Right.
Yeah, pockets. I mean,
I'm quite interested. Well, no, I have been in the past slightly interested in luxury watches, because I used to work in you know, I keep bringing it up and I don't want to talk about this past life of mine, but I used to work with some rich people. And
thanks, Gavin.
and I remember some people getting married, and my boss bought them a watch each.
Wow. Like a very expensive watch.
Like a super mega expensive watch. And I was like, holy moly. And one, it's a very personal thing. Like, are you actually going to wear this thing on your body if you haven't chosen it?
Yeah, right.
Also, my boss himself didn't wear he didn't wear a watch at all. He had one in a safe, and he was a very sort of like messy dresser. You would never think that he was who he was. So yeah, it's that kind of privilege of not having to assert yourself if you know you have power.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
that's one thing I learned at drama school. Like, really powerful people, you don't need to raise your voice. So when I see shows or people depicting powerful people and they're shouting, and I'm like, oh, no.
Yes.
you would never shout.
I guess, I mean, in the same way that, I don't know whether this is still true, but the very expensive brands used to have tiny logos. You're supposed to recognize things just because of the way that they're cut, which is a kind of access thing. Like, you have to know about it. The first season has a lot more to do with how clothes then intersect with things like class and race and gender in a really in a very kind of everyday way, which I really like. I mean, pockets is a big example of that, obviously. That episode starts with the question of why women's clothes or clothes that are marketed to women don't have pockets. And it's kind of nonsense. I mean, women used to have pockets. They used to have huge pockets, apparently. And then they just...
What, for bringing their men sandwiches in the fields?
Yes, and for putting their own sandwiches in their pockets when they went to work in the fields. Or whatever they had, like, you know, paper to write stuff down on and pens.
Yes, I think, I haven't heard this episode, but I imagine that women are not allowed to have pockets now because you want to see the silhouette of the woman. Yeah,
well, yes, I think that's partly, and also it's about a kind of, well, the way that Avery describes it, it's a kind of split in feminism whereby if you are able to go without pockets, that's a kind of liberation. You don't need pockets because you don't need stuff. Maybe you're a kind of free woman. You either have someone to carry that for you, yes, or you're a woman who doesn't work in the fields and so doesn't need to carry their lunch with them or whatever it is. But yeah, I think that's fascinating. It's a really interesting thing. Like, what does the pockets says something about you, whether or not you need pockets. She talks about how at one point, I think in the early 20th century, male suits would have as many as, what did she say, 20 something pockets, 26 pockets or something. I mean, it's just impossible to imagine that many pockets. No, well, for me, I was trying to work out where all those pockets would be. But yeah, it's anyway. So that's it's a thing you can't get away from. Your clothes, like she says, your clothes always say something about you. And if you don't, I think that's right. If you don't need to spend a lot of time thinking about your clothes, that also says something about you.
I once, so when I worked in a different industry altogether, I worked in a mega luxury hotel, and I was on the door of the super posh restaurant, and a man wandered in and he's like, may I have a table? It was for afternoon tea, and I sat him by a lovely, by the window overlooking Hyde Park. And, you know, he looks like a posh Englishman. He had, posh Englishman, like from an old family. And then a few moments later, the security guards escorted him out because apparently he was, actually, do we call people who live on the street homeless people anymore? Is that the term?
I don't know.
Anyway,
he
was a person who they identified as being off the street. And I was like, oh, he just looked like a posh guy who, you know, lives in Chelsea, which is where we are. Right. So, due to me being prejudiced, I find it quite hard to take someone whose name is Avery Thingy-Bobby seriously.
Avery Truffleman?
Yes.
I'm sorry to hear that. I think it's a wonderful name. And what I didn't say was she has a very sexy voice. That's important to say. That was a big part of me wanting to choose this. It's a pleasure to listen to her speak. She sounds so great. She has a good voice for radio.
See, now I feel that this is a jab at me.
Not at all. You're the one who brought up, well, you're the one who thinks that you might not have a good voice for radio today, which I don't think. Right. On that note, it's 2 minutes past 8 and we are now open for questions. So just let's have a look at... What do we have on there? We have, such good news. So, okay. My dad, is my dad? I'm just going to walk through it chronologically. Yes, thank you so much. I'm glad you enjoyed the hold music. Yes, indeed.
Jamie, you have hostas. I have a hosta.
I've never heard of hostas. What do they look like?
Squat, big leaves, squat plants, big leaves, kind of like this. Leaves like that, but kind of like a fresher green, like this green.
Okay.
And they are beloved by snails and slugs. So the only reason my hosta is alive and not full of holes is because it's across a very, very hot and dry patio. I see. Yeah. Can you use it as a kind of sacrificial plant then if you want to grow vegetables or salads? Yes, I think yes. Good to know. You, Caroline, I love this. Caroline is also so tired that she had to spend all day watching Pride and Prejudice. I don't know why I'm sort of reading this back out to the people who've already read the chat. This is, sorry guys. We haven't been keeping up with it. Questions. Yeah, I think Pride and Prejudice is a very good remedy for a day like today. But I want to know which version of Pride and Prejudice. There's the black and white? The BBC TV series. What? The film? There are no other versions. The film with Keira Knightley? I don't think that exists. You may have dreamt that you saw a film in which Keira Knightley played Elizabeth Bennet, but... No, hang on. You know one of the people who is in the Keira Knightley... Doesn't make it a good film. Roz? Roz Pike. I don't know her. Listeners, I once met we are Ross Pike adjacent. We are Ross Pike adjacent. Indeed. There's. I'm sorry. There's only one. There's only one version worth watching, in my opinion. The one with Jennifer Ely. Indeed. And Susanna Harker. Who you are adjacent to. Yes. Who clicked unsubscribe. She's just, bless her, with all the love in the world. She was like, I don't have time to watch your show, Vera. But she sent very encouraging messages. So yes.
Lovely.
So Susanna Harker played Jane, right? And Jennifer Ely played
Elizabeth
Bennet.
Yeah, it's a great cast.
Yes. Adrian, what is your most expensive item of clothing or most expensive accessory?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I have a watch which is very expensive, but I don't know how much it cost.
Oh, is this the one that you thought you lost?
Yes.
On my birthday?
Yes, this is the one that I thought I lost, indeed. And probably did lose. And as I said to you in the subsequent text, somebody must have picked it up from the restaurant and broken into my house and left it on my kitchen table for me to find when I got home.
Is your address engraved on the back of your
No, but like a quick Google search, I'm sure it wouldn't take an internet savvy person very long to make a link between a watch with an engraving of my initials on the back and my address, surely.
Are you the only person in the world with your initials?
No, but I don't think I was wrong about putting it on before I left the house.
Right, so some really good sleuth.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Very good sleuth found it in the restaurant or somewhere on the street between my house and the restaurant and returned it to me. So.
But they got it back to your house before you got home.
Yeah, super speedy.
Right. Amazing.
Really impressive.
Okay. Did you get it at a wedding? Kevin said. Why would you get a watch at a wedding? Oh no, you didn't get married.
No, I haven't.
Wouldn't it be great if they handed out luxury watches at weddings?
I wouldn't know what to do. I don't wear a watch now.
You would sell it, Adrian.
Oh, I see. I was going to say that may be why your boss gave, because if you give an expensive enough watch, it would have a retail value, wouldn't it? So even if you're not going to wear it yourself.
He gave it to other rich people.
Yeah.
So it was just like a conspicuous thing of like,
right.
They didn't need to sell it for actually.
But they could have done.
Actually, Adrian, a few years later, the person who received the watch was on the news because I think it was, was it the crash or something? And he had to flee the country because he'd lost all his money.
Oh gosh.
So maybe he had to sell the watch.
Yeah, you might need to. So yeah, exactly.
I'm being discreet enough, aren't I? Like I'm not mentioning anyone.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Great.
I'm very pleased to see that Caroline was indeed watching the only version of Pride and Prejudice that exists, Colin Firth, who used to own a shop very near where I live. It sold all kinds of interesting eco-friendly clothes and bicycles and washing machines.
Wait, stop, rewind. Colin Firth used to own a shop.
Yes, and I think his wife. His wife kind of ran it, but he had put up some of the money for it. That was the story.
What happened to the shop?
It closed. It's now a dessert shop. It sells cakes and things, but not like cakey cakes, like cakes, the kind of cakes which if you kind of put your hand on them, they would just collapse. You know what I mean? You couldn't they don't have any body to them. They're just cream and air, just like.
Cream or super light sponge?
Yeah, both. Cream, sugar, super light sponge. But nothing really
So is it for very, do you think they're low in calories?
No, not necessarily, because they probably have lots of sugar in. Sugar is quite calorific, isn't it? I mean, they're not filling. That's why I'm against them.
Right. Although apparently you can when you're eating, if you swallow a lot of air, you might deceive yourself.
Yeah, but that's all part of the anyway. Let's not get into disordered eating, Vera.
No. Sorry. No, I'm not encouraging. No. What are your preferred ways to clean your preferred
you just
ways?
buy that stuff in a can and fill the oven with it, and then you leave it, and then you wipe it all off. That's what I do once a decade. Doesn't get everything off, but it does a good enough job.
Kevin, I think, just moves house when his oven needs cleaning.
Oh, right. That's a way to do it. Yes. Get
Yes.
yourself a new house with an oven in, a cleaner oven.
So I would like to share, if you have any more questions, sorry, you're too late.
Okay.
I would like to share this week's takeaway. Adrian and everyone at home, listen up. What do you call something that bumps into things at the bottom of the ocean?
What do you
That
call
keeps
something?
bumping into things at the bottom of the ocean.
What do you call something that keeps bumping into things at the bottom of the ocean?
Mm.
I don't know, Vera. What do you call something that keeps bumping into things at the bottom of the ocean?
Clumsy.
I really like that. That is. Kevin guessed a bumper fish. Nope. Clumsy is really good.
Wait, there's a second acceptable answer. This is a bonus if you get this other answer.
Okay.
So a thing that, what do you call something that bumps into things at the bottom of the sea? Accident prone.
That's very good too.
Yes.
Do prawns live at the bottom of the ocean?
Well, the little ones live at, where those undersea volcanoes.
Oh.
Where you have, at the bottom, some places, not like throughout the bottom of the sea, there are these fissures.
Yeah.
And
fissures.
Fissures. That's
How are
another
these fissures at the bottom of the
fissures. And like it's very, very hot water. It's so hot, it's steam.
Right.
That's because it's been heated up by the Earth's core, and so the steam is coming out into water. And there are little teeny tiny prawns that live there.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Like being whatever, like tossed about by the and presumably bumping into each other.
Probably.
Those are the accident prawns.
Yes, the accident prawns. And if they get too much into the hot gas, they die. So that would be an accident.
Jeopardy.
That would be the death of the accident prawn.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
So that came courtesy of Dominic Murphy, who I'm in no way related to.
Good, Dom.
He's not even listening to the show. He's got better things to do.
I'm sure.
So we've got 2 more minutes. I would like to say, what are you? I have a question for you, Adrian.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with your watch?
My
when
watch.
You die?
Sorry, say it again. What am I going to do with my watch?
What are you going to do with your watch when you die?
When I die, I haven't thought about it. What should I do with it? I mean, it becomes part of my effects, doesn't it? So whoever gets all my cardboard boxes and the lamp, which is also a torch, and the poster of a flower and all the books and everything will also probably get my watch.
Right. They would have to like sort through all that stuff. But they
decide what they want and what they don't want. But fortunately, one of the books is by Marie Kondo and will give a handy guide as to how to decide what to keep and what to jettison.
Jettison, another word that I have never used. I would like to say, though, there is an article out there about a woman journalist, and it's relevant, her gender is relevant, and she spent a month wearing men's clothes and how it completely changed her life.
I think I've read that, yes.
Yeah, it's quite an old article, but I found it really sort of revolutionary because I'd never thought about, you know how we talk about men having access to a male vocabulary and the way they are in space.
Oh,
and
right. Mm-hmm.
The way that our bodies are constrained is different, sort of.
Yes.
So I think women put up with a lot of discomfort, which takes up a lot of energy.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah.
And it sort of tends to make women more self-conscious.
Yeah.
You get tired quicker and all that kind of thing. So in the past, when women wore corsets and things like that. They would literally faint because they couldn't get enough oxygen into their bodies. And so, yeah, I am on the lookout for designers who make affordable clothes that are like men's clothes.
That are more comfortable. I mean, I noticed that if I'm at a festival performing as my alter ego, Most Samantha Man, if I have to walk anywhere in her clothes, it takes me longer and it is harder work. And that's just, I have court shoes with a 1-inch heel and a stretchy skirt, and it is just more difficult to walk. Yeah, it's noticeable. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, designers who make clothes for women or for femme people?
Are
you talking about like feminine clothes or?
No, I don't think they need to be feminine clothes. I think it's because I can't buy clothes for men that fit me.
Right. Okay. So clothes for your body that are not constrictive.
Yeah.
Mm.
On that note, we have overrun.
And you were so careful.
No, I wasn't. I got carried away. I was having too much fun. So we'll see you next week.
You were pretty strict today for most of the episode. Thank you very much for watching, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. We've been Vera and Adrian. And thank you to the Omnibus, blah, blah, blah. They're really good. Check out the links, donate. Because they're great.
They are. Bye.